They told her it was harmless. They told her to obey. But when she removed it, everything she knew about safety, about privacy, about control, vanished. It began on a wet evening in a city that seemed ordinary, yet held the kind of silence only a stranger could notice. Street lamps reflected in puddles like fractured mirrors, and the distant hum of traffic faded into shadows creeping along narrow alleyways. She had just moved into her new apartment, a modest unit tucked into a forgotten corner of the building. Paint still smelled fresh, and the air carried a faint chill that made the world feel thinner than it should. Everything was normal. Too normal. Ordinary, unremarkable. And ordinary has a way of hiding the extraordinary, the unnatural, the things that wait for the perfect moment to strike. She first saw the old woman in the hallway. Small, frail, and deliberate in every movement, the woman carried an aura that did not belong to the present day. Her eyes were sharp, almost luminous under the dim hallway light, and when she smiled, it was only with her lips. The rest of her face remained shadowed, unreadable. In her hands, a small, neatly folded package. A piece of underwear. Simple, plain, nothing remarkable to anyone else. But the moment the woman extended it toward her, the room's air seemed to tighten, thickening as if the walls themselves were pressing in. "Take this," the old woman said, voice low, trembling and yet commanding. "And never, ever take it off." She laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke, a superstition, or the rambling of someone ancient. Yet something in the tone, in the insistence, made her pause. She could feel the weight of the words pressing against her chest, not threatening, but insisting. She accepted the garment, placing it aside. That night, sleep was uneasy. Shadows seemed to lean closer, and the flicker of the street lamp through her window made strange patterns across the walls. Even in the quiet, she felt a presence, patient, attentive, watching. She reminded herself that she was alone, that the world outside her apartment was mundane. But inside, she could not shake the sensation that she had been tethered to something unseen. Days passed. Subtle events began to accumulate. Footsteps in the hallway when no one was there. Objects slightly displaced, her keys, a notebook, a hairpin. The city beyond the window remained oblivious, indifferent, unaware of the tension building within the small apartment. Then came the first real warning. She was dressing one morning when she noticed the underwear shifted on its own, the fabric moving like a soft pulse against her skin. A whisper, faint, carried from the shadows, "Do not remove me." Her heartbeat spiked, her breath caught in her throat. The sound was almost imperceptible, yet unmistakable. She forced herself to dismiss it. Perhaps a draft, perhaps imagination. Yet the unease remained, gnawing at her consciousness. The old woman's words echoed, "Never, ever take it off." Something in that repetition suggested power, a force far beyond reason, beyond explanation. Night arrived, and with it, the city's usual hum faded. The apartment seemed to exhale, and with it came movement. Curtains shifted though no wind blew. Shadows formed corners of the room where no corner existed. The sensation of being watched intensified, pressing at her mind like a tide she could not hold back. Each day, the presence became more tangible. She began to notice details others would dismiss, the soft, irregular scratching on the floor outside her door, the faint vibration of her bed as if someone or something had stepped across it, lights flickering when she thought she had turned them off. And always, a whisper she could never quite locate, repeating the old woman's warning, echoing, persistent, "Never, ever take it off." Curiosity mingled with terror. Her rational mind screamed for explanation, for logic, for the comfort of disbelief. But logic could not account for the patterns, the movement, the silent, deliberate attention that seemed to fixate upon her every action. Weeks passed. She obeyed because fear was simpler than defiance. Yet obedience did not bring comfort. It brought attention. The air grew heavy in her presence, charged with anticipation. Doors creaked open on their own. The faint impression of fingers brushing her arm when no one was near. Mirrors reflected angles that did not match reality. She saw herself move, and a fraction of a second later, her reflection lingered, almost sentient, as though watching, judging, cataloging. She wanted to speak to someone, to confide, to share the impossible weight pressing upon her. But how could she explain the garment? How could she articulate the sense of being tethered to forces she could neither see nor name? The world beyond her apartment continued, indifferent. Life continued as usual. People laughed, argued, and rushed along sidewalks, utterly unaware of the invisible thread connecting her to the strange, inexorable pattern she could not escape. And then came the moment she almost disobeyed. It was in the bathroom mirror. She stared at the garment, contemplating its removal. Every fiber of her being urged her to obey, but curiosity, frustration, exhaustion, emotions she thought she had mastered, pushed her hand toward the clasp. And at that precise moment, the room's atmosphere shifted. The air thickened, heavy as water. Shadows convulsed, walls leaned inward slightly, and a whisper slithered across the edges of perception. Do not. Her breath caught. The reflection in the mirror, her own face, flickered. For an instant, it was not her alone staring back, but something else. Something patient. Something old. And then the whisper returned, not from shadows, but from within her own mind. Never take it off. Obedience became instinct. She left it on. But the sense of power behind it, the attention, the unseen scrutiny, was undeniable. Every movement was observed. Every thought anticipated. She could not explain it. She could not rationalize it. She could only endure it and wait. Strange events escalated. Objects shifted with more certainty. Footsteps were louder, deliberate. A shadow seemed to pass behind her in the corner of her eye, vanishing when she turned. Phones rang with no caller. Messages appeared with no sender. Each day, her awareness of the unseen increased, sharpening her senses to impossible details. She attempted escape. Leaving the apartment, she found the hallway unnaturally elongated, doors warped, staircases subtly misaligned. The city itself seemed complicit in her containment. No one looked at her, no one noticed, yet the corridors felt alive, pressing her back into compliance, whispering the old woman's warning in ways she could not locate or ignore. Weeks melted into months. Sleep became fragmented. She dreamt of fingers reaching from the fabric, of a presence coiling around her while she slept. Whispers turned into voices, soft but precise, cataloging everything she did, everything she thought. The garment had become both shield and chain. Removal meant danger. Obedience meant being watched forever. By the third month, she realized that the garment was more than fabric. It was a key, a tether, a conduit. It connected her to something ancient, something unseen, something that had waited patiently for a host, for a soul to bind, for a story to unfold. Every warning she had received carried weight beyond superstition. It carried reality. And on a night thick with storm clouds, when lightning split the sky and thunder rattled windows, she finally understood. The old woman had been right. The garment was a vessel of attention, a vessel of control, a vessel of something that existed just beyond perception. Obedience was survival. Defiance was unimaginable. Every whisper, every flicker of shadow, every faint movement in the periphery reinforced the same lesson: never, ever take it off. By then, the young woman was changed. She walked through the city streets, the same as any other stranger. Yet inside her apartment, in her mirror, in the quiet corners, something watched. And it waited. And it whispered. The garment remained. And she never took it off.